And Nazi got denied his bail. The the super tough guy who was the star of the Vice special on what happened in Charlottesville, Christopher Cantwell is his name. And then once he realized that the city had actually issued an arrest warrant for him for causing malicious bodily injury with a caustic substance, he was pepper spraying counter protesters, apparently without provocation. So the judge said, "No, you don't get bail." I never celebrate somebody being arrested or being put in jail. It is one of the most brutal things that our society does, and I think the average person doesn't have any sense of how brutal it is, and how we are such social animals, and being ripped apart from your social group and thrown into a cage is just an extraordinarily difficult thing I think for anyone. Louise and I ran a community for abused kids for years and years, and a lot of those kids had been through the criminal justice system, the children's criminal justice system, and a lot of their parents were or had been in prison. And boy, did I see up close and personal the consequences of that. In St. Louis, Kenny Kiwi Herring, a black transgender woman who was shot and killed by the St. Louis police on Tuesday. There's a big protest on Wednesday to say, we're not happy about this, and and we don't want more of this going on. And some guy, presumably a white nationalist, we'll find out. They haven't released the name of the guy yet. Drove in and hit 3 protesters. But apparently not so bad that there are injuries. This is not like in Charlottesville. Donald Trump is siding with Wall Street. And, I've been talking about this for some time here on this program, how, Trump wants to essentially destroy your retirement. And, finally, well, not finally. I mean, there have been a couple of pieces about it in the New York Times over the months, but the editorial board published yesterday, and I'm assuming it's in today's paper, an op-ed. This is from the editors, the New York Times. This is not, an op-ed writer. This is not the opinion of Paul Krugman or somebody else. This is the opinion of the editorial board itself. This is the official position of the New York Times. And they're talking about the fiduciary rule. The fiduciary rule is very, very simple, very straightforward. It says that if you are taking your retirement money to an investment advisor and asking that investment advisor to appropriately invest or advise you as to how to invest your retirement money, then that investment advisor must honestly tell you what's the best investment for you. And if they're trying to steer you toward what's the best investment for them, in other words, different funds pay different commission rates to investment advisors. So, if they're saying, hey, you should put your money in this fund, it only gets a 2% return, but I get a 2% kickback, as opposed to this fund that's got a 3% return, but I only get a 1% kickback, commission, excuse me. And right now, they don't have to tell you. Your investment advisor legally can lie to you right now. And it's been this way forever. And, it's just like, So Dodd-Frank included this thing called the fiduciary rule that said that if you're an investment advisor, that your investment advisor must tell you the truth. And the Trump administration has been fighting this tooth and nail. It was supposed to take effect on June 9th, but then the Labor Department, part of Donald Trump's cabinet, part of his administration, the Labor Department said it's not going to enforce it. Originally, they said, well, it's supposed to go into effect on June 9th, a couple months ago, but we're not going to put it into place until January of next year. And then And that's because the financial firms need time to adapt. But they have to figure out how to tell the truth. It takes, we're talking banksters here. It takes a long time for banksters to figure out how to tell the truth. So originally they moved it back to January 1st. Now they've moved it back to the middle of the following year, July of 2019. So it's now going to be 2 years from now, roughly, before this thing even goes into practice. So this is what the New York Times says about that. This is obstruction, pure and simple. Blocking the rule remains an administration priority, no matter how arbitrary, capricious, and harmful that would be. In one of his first acts in office, President Trump effectively delayed the rule's implementation date, April 10, by issuing a memorandum calling for its review and possible rollback. That's how it got moved back to July 9th, or June 9th. And then they moved it to January 2018, and now they've moved it to July of 2019. The headline, Mr. Trump sides with Wall Street, you lose. This guy has no interest in average Americans unless they happen to be in a crowd loving him, sucking up to him, applauding him. We talk about, what is at the core of Donald Trump. I am convinced, I've been watching this guy now for a couple of years with, some kind of up close and personal. I mean, his media profile has certainly expanded, shall we say. And it certainly seems to me that we're looking at a man who basically has no core. At the deepest level, at the real core of Donald Trump, all the way down inside, there's this frightened, angry, resentful little kid who never got love. It is so obvious. This little kid who got shipped off to a military academy because his father and mother couldn't handle him. This little kid who desperately wanted daddy's approval. This little kid who apparently never got that approval. In fact, in one of his books, his ghostwriter talks about how badly his father treated him and his older brother. His older brother who basically drank himself to death by the time he was in his late 40s. I think he was 49. Maybe 45. So this is Donald Trump, and the sooner we figure this out, that there are no core values. This man has no core values. There is no vision of the future of the United States. He's just going in whatever direction is going to get him the loudest cheers and the most foot stomping and hooting and hollering out of the crowds that he's able to pull together. And because those crowds are virtually entirely made up of loyal followers of Fox so-called news and right-wing hate radio, it's not going to be a group that is going to, ever be asking for details or information or, hey, why don't you, Mr. Trump, why don't you defend the fiduciary rule so that I don't get ripped off with my retirement funds, for example?